Hey guys, and welcome back. Today's video is going to be a little rough around the edges, to be honest. This is going to be a new kind of experimental video. I've been wanting to do a 2022 catch-up movie review for a while because there were so many awesome movies that I saw last year. And, some of these I actually started, individual reviews for, but the editing time just really started to dig into, each one into the other, and I just fell behind. And honestly, I just wanted to go into this new year, or God, I can't even say new year anymore. It's already March. Oh my God. I just wanted to go into, 2023 and get all this crap off my chest. There was a lot of awesome movies that unfortunately I didn't get around to seeing, but there was enough that I did watch that I did want to review, that I figured, shit, why not compile it into this video and just rip the band-aid off. I originally intended for this to come out before the Oscars. However, I went on my first trip ever to New York City. Had a great time, got to mingle with the locals, eat tons of pizza. It was awesome.
You look lonely. I can fix that.
But that definitely threw me off even more than I already was, plus getting back to work, all that crap. So without further ado, here is my 2022 movie review catch-up. I'll make sure to put timestamps for each movie if you want to skip around, and then also let you know if there's any spoilers or not. So let's go ahead and go in chronological order. First off, we have Matt Reeves, the Batman. Not Batman, the Batman.
I'm the Joker, baby!
Batman? More like Buttman. This movie stinks!
What the fuck?
This movie was overhyped, overrated, way too damn long. I mean, my bladder almost burst. I was sitting there cringing in my seat, holding on for dear life, and some poor 15-year-old theater kid is gonna have to mop up the floor once I'm done. Robert Pattinson has those stupid emo makeup eyes, and as someone who is very sleep deprived and also has very dark, baggy eyes, I am personally offended. All right, obviously, I'm just being an asshole. I gotta say, I love this movie. I know it seemed to be pretty divisive, and I think the main reason why was because it was a much slower pace. But that's one of the things I really loved about it. It brought in those detective elements that you usually would associate with Batman. The world was far more, for lack of a better word, gothic. It just had a more dark, creepy vibe. It didn't feel like Chicago or Detroit or New York. And that's one criticism I always had with the Nolan universe, is that it felt so dry and so realistic. It kind of lost a little bit of that character and identity and that grit. And in the Batman graphic novels, granted, there's tons and tons and tons of iterations, and I've read a good chunk, mostly, your greatest hits. But it had that kind of gothic-y horror kind of vibe. The Burton films are classics, but for me, they push too far into the cartoony. The animated series and the video games, the Arkham games, are really the two that got it right. And as far as live action adaptations go, I think this is probably the best one as far as capturing that comic book vibe. Another thing I really loved about it is the cinematography. Greg Fraser is the cinematographer on this film, and he previously worked with Matt Reeves on Let Me In. And I gotta say, Greg Fraser is easily becoming one of my favorite cinematographers next to Roger Deakins. And it's just awesome to see how Matt Reeves, a director who's a great underrated director in my opinion, how the two of them work together, and they used old lenses that had smears all around the edge, which gave it a vignette kind of effect. They used all these old lenses and just really played with the city lights to really give it that dingy kind of Seven look, that crime thriller look, and that was just badass. I loved Robert Pattinson. At first, I wasn't sure if he was too understated or too reserved. He did a lot of acting with his eyes, which was awesome. He said a lot without having to actually say anything at all, which is very hard to do. And I had complete faith in him whenever I saw The Lighthouse. But then before that, I saw Good Time. And those two movies just made me go, wow, this dude is awesome. Like awesome. Twilight is a thing of the past. But anyways, as the movie went on, I saw the arc that his character was going on. I saw how, he went from being this vengeful, spiteful, brooding monster to someone who realized he could be a symbol of hope, a symbol of peace, and seeing that kind of Batman year one evolution was a great choice in my opinion. And of course, playing off of him, you have Paul Dano, the slimy lizard person. All right, that's so harsh. No, I'm sure he's a great guy, but he plays a lot of like creepy, weird characters. Speaking of crime dramas, he was in Denis Villeneuve's awesome movie, Prisoners, and he was kind of a similar character in that. In this, I really love how Paul Dano played this version of the Riddler that was like this Reddit incel kind of character, and he had his like gang of people that he connected with over the web. It made it a little creepier, made it more realistic. There's a great shot with him at the beginning where his glasses are glowing, and it makes it look like he has glowing eyes. He's like in the dark waiting to kill somebody, and it just really sets the tone at the beginning, having it set during Halloween. Also too, really just kind of set the mood. What else? I feel like I'm forgetting. Oh, Zoe Kravitz. Woo! Damn. Okay, yeah, I'm simping. I can't help it. Zoe Kravitz was awesome. She was kind of the heart and soul of the movie. What they did with her backstory, I won't spoil it, just in case you haven't seen it. But I think it really helped bring everything together. And then you have Jeffrey Wright as Gordon. He's awesome. He brought his own spin to it. He added a lot more humor and levity, and he really played off Pattinson really well. Of course, Colin Farrell as the Penguin was really, I think, honestly, the highlight of the whole thing. I think he stole the show in every scene he was in. I actually, dare I say, found him a little bit more interesting to watch than the Riddler. Don't get me wrong, Paul Dano did a great job, and Paul Dano also did a lot of great acting with his eyes, and really was creepy and intimidating. But I feel like those characters who are just like, "Ooh, I'm crazy," like I'm just that's such a bad impression, but you know what I'm saying. Those kind of characters, like just mentally ill, like crazy psycho killer characters. I'm just kind of done with that trope, which is, I know that's like so much of what Batman is, but I don't know. It's one of those like been there, done that, seen it. But Colin Farrell like transforms, like not only physically because of the makeup, but with the accent he's putting on. Like, I think he's going to leave a bigger impression in this world once we see more movies, and of course the Penguin show on HBO. And I know I might get some heat for this. I don't know if I'm alone here, but the scene that everyone is memeing of the Riddler freaking out in the jail cell, that scene took me out of the movie. Like, I can't say the acting was bad. I think it's just the character choice that they made, but him breaking down is totally realistic. That's totally how that kind of character would act. He's an egomaniac. But it was just so, I don't know if it was intentionally funny or unintentionally funny, but he kind of sounds like that one meme cat.
How can you say that?
You think you'll be remembered?
You're a pathetic psychopath.
Begging for attention.
You're gonna die alone. No. A nobody.
And that just kind of ruined it for me. There are so many other things I want to cover about this movie. I really liked it a lot. Again, I think the main takeaway for me was I like slow kind of procedural drama type movies. I like that kind of detective story. I like the darker, grittier atmosphere. I appreciate that this movie was, a little bit more, even though it's PG-13, it's a little bit more graphic, a little bit more violent, a little bit more harsh. I don't know. There's so many other things I want to say, but just for brevity's sake, I think that more or less covers it. I like this ever so slightly, just tiny bit more than the Nolan movies, even if those movies might be more tightly structured and might objectively just be slightly better films. This just had so much personality. It didn't feel like, Nolan's borderline like Mission Impossible 007 kind of vibe. It's like, no, this felt way more Batman. And because of that character and charm, it just rubbed off on me. So for me, it had some minor pacing issues, but I'm going to give this a solid 9 out of 10. I mean, this was a great blockbuster. That Zoe Kravitz walk in the club, you know what I'm saying? When she goes through the club and she's like, Holy shit, that's amazing. I love it. That gets a 10 out of 10, but it's a 9 out of 10 movie.
Vengeance.
I've only done one movie and I've already talked too much, so it's going to break my heart to do this, but I'm going to try and get through this as fast as possible, because if I don't, this will turn into a completely different video. And the reason that is because next up on the list is Everything Everywhere All at Once. Yes, I know everything that could possibly be said about this movie has already been said. You know, it won Best Picture. I mean, it won a shitload of Oscars. I actually read that it won the most amount of awards of any film, like across the board, which is well deserved, by the way. And not to be like a hipster about it, because I hate being a hipster. I know for a fact if I was like 15 and I saw this movie, I would gatekeep the shit out of it. I would have been like,
oh, it's too deep. You don't understand. This movie is my soul.
Like, I would have been a fucking little bitch about it, which is great. That's a good sign. But I actually did see this movie opening night on accident. My friend told me about it, and he was like, hey, this movie's coming out tomorrow. Do you want to come see it with me? And I remember seeing a trailer like on YouTube, but of course, you know, I always skip the ad. And when I saw it, I got kind of Stephen Chow vibes, you know, Kung Fu Hustle vibes, and I was like, okay, you know, it seems neat. I didn't know who was in it. I didn't know what it was about. I just knew it had to do with multiverses. I was like, all right, yeah, Rick and Morty, fucking Doctor Strange, like multiverses, that's like the thing, whatever. Little did I know, I was about to watch one of my favorite movies ever made. Yes, I know, that sounds hyperbolic. Yes, I know, that's what everyone's saying now, but I swear on my life, I've never had a more profound experience watching something, and I never felt like something literally just extracted my thoughts and spit out on the screen. And when the movie was over, I couldn't breathe. My chest was so tight. I didn't want to move because I was just like, holy fuck. That is something you only see once in a generation. Like that was art. And I know how, again, everyone's hyping this movie up. I don't need to give it any more praise than it's already gotten, but I don't go to see movies more than once in theaters, at least not as a grown-ass adult. Maybe as a kid I did because, you know, someone hadn't seen a movie. Okay, I'll go. I saw this movie in theaters 4 times. 4 times. Like, I did the opposite of gatekeep. I dragged people to this movie. I was like, please watch this movie. And I did not expect it to blow up the way it did. You know, I was gonna make a video about it and be like, everyone's gotta watch this movie. I went on YouTube. Literally, that's all it was on my For You page, was just never-ending reviews and deconstructions. I mean, this movie really spoke to the millennial and Gen Z, generations. And even though the messages and themes, you know, can apply to anyone, and you know, that's part of what makes it so universally loved, it seems, is the fact that it is touching, you know, those themes of generational trauma, those themes of you know, having self-doubt, the you know, feeling lost, the existentialism, you know, pessimistic nihilism versus optimistic nihilism, you know, glass half full, whatever. It's like, you know, all those themes are relatable, but I think this movie just came at the right time, and the cast, I mean, oh my God, Michelle Yeoh, Ke Huy Quan, you know, Jamie Lee Curtis. I mean, there was no misses. I mean, this had the perfect cast. The Daniels took 10 years to write this shit. I mean, I remember reading whenever they first started writing it, it was just off the back of Swiss Army Man. So it was going to star Daniel Radcliffe, and then they changed it and they were going to have Jackie Chan, but he wasn't available. And they were like, well, let's make it a female lead. So they got Michelle Yeoh. And then that's when they were like, oh, you know, we need the husband character. We'll do you know, Ke Huy Quan. And it's like, this movie is the definition of lightning in a bottle. You could not replicate the magic that this movie had. It had a compelling antagonist, and it had twists, it had turns. You know, I know the goofy, silly, juvenile, pee-pee poo-poo humor isn't for everyone. I get that, and I'll be curious to see how this movie ages as far as the humor goes. But I think that having it be so loosey-goosey and so silly really plays into the themes of how, you know, everything is just crazy. No one knows what's going on. I mean, there are so many layers to this, and there's a reason why I'm being so vague, because you know, for anyone who hasn't seen this movie, I really want them to just go out and see it. And this, honestly, it does deserve its own video. And I don't care if everyone's already said their shit. Literally, I cannot watch the movie without crying. I love it that much. That means I owe it to myself to put in my 2 cents. But God, there's so much I want to say. Fuck it. I don't care. 10 out of 10. I think it's a masterpiece. I agree with all the praise. I understand, you know, some people thought it went on a little too long. I wish it went on longer. You know, and I get that the humor isn't for everybody, but I honestly think that this is one of the best independent films as far as having young talent come in, bring in old talent. You know, it is the perfect, most beautiful storm. It is art. I don't care if that's the popular take. It's true. It's fucking true. It's not a lie. Go see it. I'm not going to say anything else about it. It's a 10 out of 10. I love it. It might be one of my favorite movies ever made. Here's a random list of other favorite movies, just so you can see if my taste is shit or not. But yeah, so Everything Everywhere All at Once, 10 out of 10. Sorry that was such a messy overview and not really a review, but I'll give it its own video. I love this movie so much, I was even the Rakakuni Hibachi chef for Halloween. And I know you're wondering, and the answer is yes. This is a raccoon puppet with 2 headbands shoved through its ass. Now we're cooking.
Kill everyone in your family.
Next up, we have yet another film about Asian generational drama, Turning Red. Yeah, this is, you know, Pixar. Pixar doesn't really miss. I mean, oh fuck. Oh shit, I shouldn't have said that. They've actually missed quite a bit.
Wow.
I fucking hate Cars, I'm sorry. But anyways, for the most part, you know, Pixar has, you know, much like Ghibli, has this, you know, legacy of you know, classic after classic. Everybody loves Pixar. You know, I'm no different. I love animation, whether it's Western, whether it's Eastern, doesn't matter. It's, you know, I love it all. And this movie definitely had a very unique charm to it. I know that obviously this movie will hit a lot harder if you are a girl and you went through those struggles. But I think that what makes this movie so wonderful is that no matter what your gender is, they really communicate that feeling of adolescence and that feeling of, you know, going through puberty and how confusing it is. And also too, it embraces the cringe. That's this movie. If you like cringe humor, this movie has such delightful cringe humor. I mean, all the characters are so lovable and likable and relatable because you remember back when you were that age how cringy and crazy you were. And the scene where she goes into her room and she starts writing, you know, her fantasies down in her journal, and like, you know, the scene where the mom is chasing her with tampons at school. It's like, it's just so perfectly curated to be, you know, a slice of life. And that you know, that classic coming of age story. None of these themes are particularly new. It's just the way they're done is executed so well. A lot of the humor is visual gags, and I think that's what really makes it work. They use the medium to their advantage, and also too, the style. You know, I'm a big anime guy. The style really you know, evoke that late 90s Sailor Moon, Ranma 1/2 kind of look to it. A lot of pastels and a lot of pinks. That's probably what sticks out to me the most, is the use of color. Is gorgeous. I love it. Also too, you know, all the boy band culture. It's you know, relevant now because BTS and, you know, K-pop really, you know, that boy band kind of culture has come full swing, but this obviously is more referencing, Backstreet Boys and NSYNC. It made me laugh out loud multiple times, which is hard to do. And, I saw it with a group of friends and I loved it. I liked it enough that it might actually go into maybe my top 5. I don't know. I'll have to think about it. But for now, not to sound like a broken record, but yeah, I'd probably give this a 9. I think it's going to hold up really well. It's charming, delightful. This is definitely something I could watch again for sure. I mean, it wasn't a one and done like a lot of these movies tend to be for me. I liked it a lot. So yeah, I'm gonna give it a 9 out of 10. Well, I think we've been too cheery and delightful. Let's get morbidly depressing and fucking disgusting. We're gonna talk about The Northman. Considering this is directed by Robert Eggers, it really should have been no surprise. I mean, I knew this shit was going to be gnarly. He did The Lighthouse, which I adore, and of course The Witch, or I guess The Witch, however you want to say it. I love both those movies. I know some people think that they're too slow, too dry, that they're style over substance. I disagree. I mean, The Witch scared the fuck out of me. I'm already I'm not religious per se, but I'm superstitious enough that witchcraft, it's a little fucky. I don't know. I don't really trust it. And I grew up Christian, even though I'm technically agnostic now, but there was enough shit in that freaked me out. And then The Lighthouse, man, what a ride. I know I already talked about it with the Batman shit, but if you want to see peak Willem Dafoe, I mean like top shelf, top tier, peak Willem Dafoe and Robert Pattinson bringing in his A game. I mean, that movie was awesome.
Fortnite.
And Robert Eggers clearly has a fetish and a hard-on for period pieces, because each movie he makes, clearly he does a shitload of research and puts in a lot of authentic language. And this movie, while still felt a little Hollywood, it definitely captured the Viking era and Viking culture, I think, better than most media. And what that means is there is a shitload of pillaging. There is I don't know if I should say this on YouTube, but I'll bleep it out. There's a lot of they don't shy away from anything when it comes to the dark side of humanity. And even though this is fictional, because it's based on the story that inspired Hamlet, he really makes sure to make the world feel as authentic and historically accurate as possible. But honestly, there's so much death, so much misery. I mean, this isn't really a spoiler. I mean, there's a scene where they're basically going through a town, pillaging, and they're raping the young girls, and then all the elderly people and the children. Well, they kill all the men, but then all the elderly women who are all old and who they don't want to fucking molest, and then all the children who obviously they don't want to keep. They put them all in the house and they burn them alive, and I'm like, all right, so this is that kind of movie. Okay, here we go. And I'm not. But by the way, I'm not against violence or sexual or graphic material in movies by any means. I mean, I like Game of Thrones, I like Berserk, so I don't mind it. I think you just gotta be in the mood and the headspace to absorb that kind of just filth and misery, And this movie, it was gorgeous, beautiful. I mean, a lot of it reminded me of The Green Knight, which is another movie I really like. And I really loved all the scenery. It was gorgeous. I mean, Robert Eggers, he knows what he's doing. But it's so by the number, bare bones, revenge story. And how do I put it? Just that ultimately I didn't get a whole lot out of it other than the atmosphere and the cinematography. The performances were fine and had no problems. Willem Dafoe was a fucking crackhead as usual. I loved him. But yeah, I think another movie that I would compare it to as far as how it made me feel would be something like The Revenant. The Revenant was technically impressive, but really the story, everything, I was just kind of like, I've seen this before. It's long, it's miserable, it's gross. I like slow movies, I like long movies, and I'm okay with shit that's really dark. But I might have just not been in the right place to watch, or I don't know. Maybe I just wasn't feeling it. It's a good movie. Most people I know really liked it, but for me, I can't see myself watching it again. So I'm glad I watched it. I enjoyed it. But I don't really think I'm gonna rewatch this shit because I don't know. It's too much for me. So hopefully this isn't too harsh. But I think for me, I'll give it a 7.5 out of 10. So that's still good. Now, obviously that's a good review, but you know, it wasn't a masterpiece in my eyes. There wasn't a scene where Willem Dafoe screamed, "You're fond of me, lobster," and Robert Pattinson says, "I'm sick of your fucking farts." I think that's what this movie needed. All right, let's get away from the A24. Let's get away from the indie films. Let's go to the blockbusters. Let's go to the movies that people really want to watch, right? Let's talk about Marvel. Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. Sam Raimi is back, baby, and he brought his bag of tricks. You can instantaneously tell this movie apart from other Marvel films just based on his camera work alone, and that's really my main takeaway from it is all the spinning, all the weird, goofy transitions, the cheese. It really brought me back to the Raimi Spider-Man, to the Evil Dead. You know, I'm a Raimi fan through and through. So, you know, this was a really fun watch. But even though I enjoyed this movie, I gotta say, it didn't leave a super long-lasting impression. I am not a Marvel hater, okay? So don't freak out. I know it's really popular to hate on the MCU right now, and I know they have a shit track record at the moment. I think that what really kind of killed this movie for me is how underdeveloped Wanda felt. And I know, obviously, WandaVision is where all her characters' backstory came. And I know the whole point of the MCU is just like the comics. It's like you read the different issues, you watch the different shit, and that's what, you know, puts it all together. But man, this movie just, it felt weird. It felt like it needed more Wanda backstory. And I hate the shit on kids, all right? So I'm not gonna, you know, fucking go in, but the two sons in this film, the child actors, were distractingly bad. I anticipated possibly having problems with America Chavez just because, you know, it's a young teen character. I thought that maybe she was annoying, but no, she was fine. I thought she was good. I had no problems with her. But the two child actors, even though they're not even on screen that long, every time they come on, it is like the worst sitcom, like Disney acting. Like they do that thing where they're like, "Leave my mom alone." I'm like, holy shit, this is distractingly bad. The love interest, you know, aspect with Doctor Strange was also kind of underdeveloped and just felt so shoehorned and cheesy, but not in a good way. And like this is just, I don't know, maybe my standards were too high. The cameos, I don't know if I should spoil this or not, just in case, skip through this time code. But the cameos, obviously, with the Illuminati, badass. When they played the X-Men animated series theme song, when Patrick Stewart came out, you know, I ejaculated just like everyone else. I was like, holy shit, awesome. They had, you know, Reed Richards with John Krasinski. I was like, cool. And then when she kills everyone, like straight just massacres them, like Invincible style, I was like, hell yeah, finally some blood and gore, you know, in the MCU. I appreciated it. But even with all these cool things, it felt disjointed. They really didn't use the multiverse, you know, aspect as much as I would have liked. And it just, you know, it just felt like the sum of all its parts didn't lift it up high enough for me. It's better than some of the other Marvel movies I've seen as of late. I don't know if I could say I absolutely loved it. So I hope we'll get to see more like wacky artistic choices, you know, like with Raimi. Let the director have a little bit more say, put a little bit more character into the actual filmmaking. And hopefully get the MCU out of the rut it's in. But yeah, I'm gonna have to I'll give it a 6.5 out of 10. I was originally gonna give it a 7. Again, I don't plan on watching this again, and it doesn't really stand on its own super well. You could say that about a lot of the MCU movies, but I don't know, maybe I'm just growing out of MCU. 6.5 is closer to a 7 than it is to a 6, but you know, it was okay. It was good, but not great. Spoilers, we're about to talk about something that is great though. Barbarian, boy. Woo! I love this one. This one was a huge surprise. I did not see this shit coming. This is also going to be a really hard movie to talk about without spoiling, so So I'll just say real fast, this was directed by Zach Kreger. I think this is technically his like first big major like Hollywood production, but he was part of the Whitest Kids You Know, which if you ever watched that show or if you ever saw the clips on YouTube back in the day, is hilarious. I don't know how well it's aged, but he's a very funny guy, and just like Jordan Peele, he's known for comedy sketches. So we have yet another comedy guy getting into horror. I hope this trend keeps continuing. It's very interesting because I think there's kind of a weird relationship between horror and comedy about the setup, the payoff. And this movie had such a great sense of humor, but was also fucked and like super creepy and weird and scary and morbid. And honestly, this movie felt like 3 different movies in one. It was creepy and suspenseful, then it was funny as shit, and then it was like oddly depressing and sad. And I don't know, it balanced a lot of tones and a lot of styles with so much grace, and that was what was so refreshing about it. Justin Long, he's in the trailers. I'm not going to say how he's involved, but how his character is involved was great commentary, because a lot of horror movies are elevated by having a social message or having that political satire commentary. So his character and the whole film had this theme of power dynamics and gender roles and relationships with men, etc., which I know people roll their eyes at that, but it wasn't cringy. It didn't feel out of place. It really, I think the movie had a nice, cohesive, strong foundation, and it was scary, but there was a little bit more under the surface that I enjoyed and that I appreciated. And then again, the humor was great. So I'm not gonna say, honestly, I've already said too much. This movie is best going in blind. It uses such creative camera work. It uses such a different approach for each scene by scene, and that could easily come out being very clunky and awkward, but it pulls it off of grace. And the fact that it has so many different tones and styles is, to me, what made it fascinating and what made it so engaging to go along with. And I watched it twice, and both times I was screaming. The second time I watched it with my friend, I really wish I did a Let's Watch react video, because me and my friend Quinley, who we did a silly Goosebumps thing a while back, we were hooting and hollering. It was awesome. If you watch this with a group of friends, it'll be even better, which every horror and comedy is better with a group of friends. But yeah, so the balance of tones, the kind of darker underbelly kind of message behind it, when it comes to power dynamics and trust and authority and gender roles. It's like it just was awesome. It was great. It was kick-ass. This seems pretty high. I think I'm gonna give it a 9. There was a few little plot holes in there, not nearly as bad as something like Us. I wasn't angry, but there's a plot hole in there that is kind of screwy, and you're like, I'm not sure if this lines up. But it was so kick-ass that I don't even care. I changed my mind. I'm not doing a spoiler section. I don't care. Y'all just gotta go see this. I just it's gonna subvert your expectations in a satisfying way. That's all I'm gonna say. So enjoy it. Enjoy the never being able to go to an Airbnb again and feel safe. Let's keep that horror train going, baby. Next up, I'm gonna do a double feature, X and Pearl. There's technically one other movie that would come in chronologically here. I don't give a shit. I just want to talk about X and Pearl together, because this is one of the most interesting things I've ever seen, of a movie getting a sequel within the same year of its release, and that wasn't planned that way. So if you don't already know, X and Pearl are 2 films that take place in the same cinematic universe, Pearl being the prequel to X. And it turns out that they originally shot X and they, had some more time, and they said, fuck it, let's just make another movie. Let's just continue this shit. And oh my God, Mia Goth, damn girl. Okay, I wasn't super familiar with her. Well, between these 2 movies, she's awesome. She's an amazing actress. I mean, she nailed it. She knocked it out of the park. In X, she did great, but in Pearl, even more so. But I'm getting ahead. So let's all right. Let's calm down. Okay, so X. So both films were directed by Ty West, and I think with X, this film definitely had a 70s throwback, not only because it takes place in the 70s and the advent of film on a commercial level, but I think what really kind of gave it that 70s vibe was also to the inspiration from things like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, because this film also takes place in Texas. But there's a lot of 70s and 80s slasher throwbacks, and like also to, you know, remakes and reboots that come out recently, but this one feels the most authentic. This feels like this actually could have come out back then, and that's a good thing. It doesn't feel like it's pandering too much. It doesn't feel like, you know, it's riding on any kind of nostalgia. It really kind of feels like its own thing. And the main reason why is because the film has such heavy themes in sex and sensuality and attraction and aging and sex positivity, and you know, it kind of has that theme of desire, and that's, you know, something that obviously, while we might be more open to now, still for the most part, at least in America, I can't speak for anywhere else, we're definitely still kind of prude and like touchy and weird about. And I think setting a horror film around those kind of themes, which isn't anything new, but doing it in the way this film did, I think was really interesting to watch and made for a great backdrop to all the kills. Because X is essentially about a group of young people making an independent pornography film. Because again, this is the advent of commercial film that you could use at home. So they're shooting this amateur porno, and they want to, you know, make it big in Hollywood, you know, now, because they can sell the film. They don't need a distributor. You know, it was a totally new revolutionary era. But really, the biggest standout in this whole film was not Mia Goth as the main character, but Mia Goth playing the antagonist. The antagonist is an elderly lady, and this elderly lady is down bad. Like, she's down bad. Like, she is ready to go. And by ready to go, I mean, if you do not slide in this grandma's DMs, she will slide a knife into your throat. Oh my God. If me and Quinley were hooting and hollering over Barbarian, I mean, I was screaming to the top of my lungs watching this shit. It was so wild. We actually watched X and Pearl back to back, and we had so much fun. The kills were awesome. It was gory as shit. Again, I didn't hate any of the characters. I actually was kind of, you know, interested in their story. And you know, it was really tense whenever, you know, I realized, oh shit, they're about to bite it. You know, the camera work was great. The score was awesome. You know, it didn't feel like a ripoff of anything, but it also felt familiar in a good way. It was satisfying. I liked it a lot. It was really fun. I'm not sure if it's gonna be, you know, classic status, but it definitely was a great start to this now soon-to-be trilogy. So for the performances and for, you know, the kills and just having, you know, your main antagonist be, you know, this creepy, horny grandma. I mean, it brought something fresh and something new. You gotta support the independent cinema. So I'm probably gonna give it a very, very enthusiastic 7 out of 10. Which might sound low considering all the praise I gave it, but I think that it's just bare bones enough for it to not push it into just absolute greatness. It was really fun, but I can't see myself rewatching it a bunch of times. Also because the far superior film, in my opinion, and I think a lot of people agree, would be Pearl. Man, if I had it down bad for Mia Goth in the first one, my toxic trait was that I watched Pearl and I thought, I can fix her. Holy shit. By the end of the movie, I was like, oh shit, this is bad. This is bad news. To say this movie is a significant improvement from the first, I almost think is unfair, because this movie is very different. And it's awesome because of that. It is so different in tone, in style, and in performances. Mia Goth returns as Pearl, who is the elderly woman in X, but it's set, I believe, if I remember correctly, it's set in the 1930s, you know, way back. And from just the opening shot of this movie, you're like, oh, this is a totally different film. It really borrows a lot of imagery and iconography from that time. You know, it has a very kind of Wizard of Oz kind of storybook feeling to it. The colors are bright and rich and vibrant, saturated. You know, the characters are so larger than life, but not unbelievable. More so Pearl, I think, than anyone. You know, and I think that what's great is that it manages to have humor and horror, but it actually has a lot of genuinely good drama, especially when you look at Pearl and her family. You know, Pearl is clearly a very sick and twisted individual, but you still kind of feel for her slightly, because you feel like, you know, you can't help but wonder, is this a nurture or a nature thing? It continues to explore those themes of sexuality and desire and relationships. You know, it really was, this time around, a just straight up character study of drama. I mean, I felt so bad for her dad. the dude is just is paraplegic. He's, you know, sitting in a chair, he can't even move. That actor acts so much just with what little facial expressions he has. I was like, damn, this guy's got it rough. He did not deserve what happened to him. And Pearl, from the beginning, you're like, this girl's fucked. You know, what she does to the farm animals and shit, and her weird relationship she has with that creepy ass alligator. That alligator deserves top billing, honestly. That there's a scene, I'm not gonna spoil it, but there's a scene at the end of the alligator. I could not stop laughing. It was like a comedic jump scare. It was so fucking hilarious. You got to see, you know, why she has this big dream of hers, and, you know, this very kind of naive look of the world. And another thing I appreciated is that there's a scene with the projectionist of the local theater, and at first you think, oh, this guy's like a creep or a weirdo, but their relationship turns out to be somewhat wholesome. Maybe not wholesome is not the right word, but he could have been a weirder, creepier, sleazier character, but they actually had a very interesting relationship. And the character writing in this, I think, was just very strong. And I think also, too, it shows just how versatile the director is as far as styles and tones. And I gotta say, I'm really excited for Maxine. I mean, you know, while sure I didn't give X the highest score in the world, I think that this has potential to be a truly iconic trilogy, and that's all due to Mia Goth. And I believe she actually had a hand in writing some of her character in this particular movie, and it shows. I mean, she really just captivates you, and you know, I'm sure everyone's seen the GIFs and the memes of her iconic stare at the end of this movie, and that's really what it is. It's iconic. I think Pearl is going to be a smash hit every Halloween. She's going to be up there with Michael Myers for sure, as just one of those characters that, you know, is instantaneously recognizable and that people are going to meme to death. So yeah, I'm going to give it an 8. That's high. It's pretty damn high, but this one I would be more likely to rewatch. I definitely think that it has more to offer than X, even though X was good. This was just a little bit better. So, yeah.
No, I'm a star! Please, I'm a star!
All right, I'm done talking about horror. This is getting depressing. Too much murder and death. So let's talk about a murder mystery. Of course, I'm talking about Glass Onion, the sequel to Rian Johnson's, I almost said Get Out, to Rian Johnson's Knives Out. Jeez, I was a pretty big fan of Knives Out because I'm an Ana de Armas simp. Jeez, I need to stop just outing myself here. Anyways, so yeah, the first film was great. I saw the twist, or I guess the culprit, pretty early on, and I was kind of disappointed that I got it right. However, the ensemble cast was just so fun and so enjoyable, and you know, I have a soft spot for any movie that has like a warm and cozy vibe, and even though it's a murder mystery, it definitely had, you know, that wintry kind of warm, cozy vibe. and Daniel Craig just ate it up, and everyone just was having so much fun, you could tell, and that's really what elevated the movie. This new one, it's this time it's a tropical vibe, and you're still having, you know, commentary on the rich, the way the first one did. This time it's a little bit more on the nose because it's more of a commentary on those billionaire tech types like your Elon Musk, your Jeff Bezos, etc. And of course Edward Norton now is your big figurehead that's opposing Daniel Craig. And you have a bunch of other amazing actors. You have Dave Bautista in here. The list is endless. And I think what's awesome is that Rian Johnson clearly loves mysteries. He clearly loves Clue, and he really loves subverting expectations. I know there's all the controversy because of Star Wars, but I think when left to his own devices, when working on original, you know, IP, I think he has a lot of fun and he has a lot of cool ideas, and he knows how to make a good movie. I found the actual story in this one more entertaining. It actually surprised me, not once, but twice. I mean, there were quite a few moments where, you know, there's double crosses or, you know, whatever. And I was like, oh shit, I did not see that coming. This one also made me laugh out loud, which I appreciated. It was genuinely funny, genuinely surprising. And I think really, just like the first one, Daniel Craig, he's so happy he's not playing James Bond anymore. You can tell every time he walks on set, he is chewing this up. I mean, he loves having that southern twang. He really, really just loves playing this character. And honestly, I hope they just keep making these movies. I hope that they just keep doing different places, different themes, because I just want to see Daniel Craig have fun. I just want to see him keep doing this. This movie was, I forgot what the runtime was. It was long as shit, but I didn't feel like it was too long. Like, I didn't have to get up to go to the bathroom or anything. Me and my friends just sat on the couch, and, you know, I kept trying to put the mystery together, and I was wrong, and I was happy. I was like, damn, this was actually really surprising, really funny, and it went at a good pace. I wish there was more I could say about it, but I think I'm gonna keep this one short and sweet. You know, being that it is a mystery, I think the less I say, the better. I'm gonna go ahead and give it an 8. I'll give it an 8 out of 10. It was pretty good. I really didn't have a lot of problems with it. So yeah, I mean, that's about it. In keeping with the theme of pleasant surprises, it's time to talk about the oh so delectable The Menu. This movie flew under my radar, and I'm pissed. I'm sad I didn't get to see it in theaters. This movie is so much more than what the trailers let on. A shame on me for not supporting it in theaters, because The Menu is, in my opinion, the best piece of satire I've seen in a while. It's not satirizing any particular person, and it's not overly political. It's more satirizing a subculture, and that subculture is the snobbery, you know, food critic culture. But even though it's about food, you could easily apply this to books or you know, media or just about any kind of piece of art. This movie, from the trailers, I thought was going to be about like cannibalism, or I thought it was going to be like Saw but with food, which I guess some people argue it's kind of like that, but honestly, no, not really. This movie is so genuine, but at the same time super snarky, super clever, and definitely, you know, flips a middle finger to the audience in such a playful way. I think what impressed me most about this movie was just how funny it is. I mean, this shit was so funny. It never felt too dark or too grim, and having the wrong impression almost enhanced it. It's really about this artist whose, you know, dream has died. His you know, he's so jaded, so bitter, and so up his own ass. You have all these characters who are just complete assholes. Like, you don't like any of these people, and you see them go through each course. These beautiful dishes come out that are totally pretentious and stupid, and they really hammer it in thick, and it has these title cards that pop up showing you the ingredients and shit, and there's so many funny little gags. I mean, there's so many specific things I want to bring up, and I'm trying to hold my tongue, because the less you know, the better, which I know I've already said that several times here. But Ralph Fiennes as the head chef, oh my God, I adored him, and the relationship he has with Anya Taylor-Joy, with her character, the little rivalry between them, their little interactions. Every time she snapped at him, or he walked up to her, I got so excited. I was like, yes! I mean, talk about top 10 anime battles. Those two characters have an amazing back and forth. I could have watched a whole movie with just those two characters, but Nicholas Hoult also can't be underappreciated because, you know, he plays this dorky ass, really pretentious douchebag, and he does such a great job playing that character. He was annoying, but in a good way, like in the way that you want to be annoyed. How his character, where his character ended up, I found very satisfying. Hong Chow was also in this, and you know, not to get ahead, but you know, she was also in The Whale, and I loved her. I absolutely adored her as the main bad guy and the HBO Watchmen. And so, you know, what little role she played in this, I think was great. There's a sequence in here with a hamburger that made me immediately go out and get a burger after the movie. It was so satisfying. You know, funny, great satire, felt fresh, it felt very new. I haven't really seen anything else quite like it. I don't want to speak too soon, and probably, no, fuck it. I'm going to say it. Probably my second favorite movie after Everything Everywhere All at Once this past year. Not of all time. I just meant like, it's probably my second favorite movie from 2022 of the ones I saw. So yeah, I'm gonna give it, yeah, I'll give it a 9. I can't give it a 10. I feel like 10, if I say something's a 10, that means it's like of all time. Like, holy shit, it's like my favorite movie ever. So no, I'm gonna have to give it a 9. It was really, really, really good. I really can't say I had many complaints about it. Screw it, I'm bumping it up to 9.5. 9.5. I don't know what's keeping me from giving it a 10. I think I need to reserve 10 for all-time favorites. So yeah, The Menu, go watch it. There's no reason not to. And speaking of eating a whole bunch, it's time to talk about The Whale. Yay! So we are in the midst of Renaissance. Everyone loves Brendan Fraser. You know him, now Ke Huy Quan, Keanu Reeves. They've become the wholesome trinity that, you know, I didn't mean to do some Illuminati shit. I don't know why I did that, but they've become the wholesome trinity that must be protected at all cost. This film is a Darren Aronofsky movie, and if you know Darren Aronofsky's work, he likes to go dark. He likes to go, you know, artsy. He's a, you know, known for being kind of a pretentious director. I like his work. I've seen, you know, Requiem for a Dream, Black Swan, Mother, which I know that was super controversial. A lot of people hated that one. I had the benefit of going in knowing that it was about the Bible. So since I knew, it's an art piece about the Bible through the story of a house, that's the reason why I enjoyed that one. I was like, that was kind of neat. I'm sure if I went in not knowing, I might have been pissed like everyone else. But anyways, you know, Darren Aronofsky, love him or hate him, he cares about his work. He is a true filmmaker. He you know, he's an artist. He puts his heart and soul into everything he makes. And this is one he was sitting on for a while because he really, really wanted Brendan Fraser. And I totally get why. Brendan Fraser is a god. I mean, he's amazing. And this movie is adapted from a play, and you can definitely tell because it's all centered around one location. It's a bottle film, which isn't bad. I love movies that can make use of a central location, but it's very, very monologue heavy, and that's not uncommon for dramas, of course. But I think what really impressed me about this movie was, even though it's all set in a tiny, cramped apartment, and even though it has lots of long-running monologues, I totally felt invested. I really felt like I was, you know, with this character. I was getting a chance to live in their shoes. Hong Chow, oh my God, she really, really elevated Brendan Fraser's performance. I mean, they really were holding on to each other in this movie, and so much raw emotion was there. And of course, I can't forget, you got Sadie Sink as well from Stranger Things fame. She plays Liz, who's the daughter of Charlie, the lead character, and she also did a really great job. And I think my favorite part about this movie was just how much they were able to do with such a limited space, and how much they really trusted Brendan Fraser to bring out the emotion and really just give the movie the substance that it needed. I think that the cinematography, great. The lighting and sound design really did most of the heavy lifting here, outside of the performances. I mean, you really felt like you were in this dingy kind of apartment, and it really emphasized that feeling of loneliness, that kind of feeling of dread and impending doom that they set at the start of this film. And you have a character who's I can't remember if he has a name or not, but it's a character who's a pizza delivery guy who talks to Charlie through the walls, and you really get this sense of wanting to connect and go to the outside world again. I think one thing people have said that I kind of disagree with is people say that some of the scenes that involve his eating disorders are overblown or cheesy or are overly dramatic, and that this film, some people have gone as far as say that it glorifies obesity, and I'm like, that's bullshit. As someone who, now granted, I was not, this wasn't my 6,000 pound life. I wasn't literally a whale. But when I was in middle school and like late elementary school, I clinically would have been considered obese. I was a big fucking kid. It wasn't until, hindsight as an adult, I realized, it was a trauma response, and that, food gave me comfort, even if it brought me shame or guilt, or if I felt, ugly. The comfort and stimulus of eating was very addictive. And so this movie for me it hit very hard. It was very uncomfortable to watch. And the movie already was so depressing, but there's one scene where Charlie is eating and he starts choking, and Hong Chow, who's in the room with him, has to give him the Heimlich maneuver. And it's so traumatic and like scary. And once he hawks this meatball sub up onto the floor, she starts screaming and crying. She's like, God damn it, why'd you do that to me? You scared the shit out of me. I thought I was gonna lose you. And he's sobbing and crying. He's like, oh, I'm sorry. And it's just you have to sit there in this miserable moment. And then the worst part is that he goes back to eating. She picks the shit up off the floor, gives it to him. He goes right back to eating. And even though he feels shame from eating and she feels guilt from enabling it, neither one of them are strong enough to really confront this thing. And it's like, you have, as an audience member, just have to sit there in this like slow, just confrontational moment. And it's like, oh God, it's sad. It's just, the whole movie is dreadful. But there are moments, small moments of hope and of humanity. And that's really brought out in those performances. But now, unfortunately, I'm going to have to get into the low points. And I swear I'm not just trying to be a contrarian, but I had some major problems with this movie. And unfortunately, it goes towards the kids. So you have this character who is, a religious nut who comes into the apartment, and he comes in like a sitcom, like almost like a side character on Friends who just pops in. And that's really where the kind of staginess, the kind of like theater play kind of vibe comes in, where you realize, oh, they need more characters, and that they need more interaction, so they need an excuse to have some person come into this place all the time, because you can't change around the set. It starts to feel kind of cramped whenever that character starts coming back in. And you have Sadie Sink, who plays this angsty teenager. And the way she's written, I don't know if it's the writing's bad or if it's something in the directing. I mean, I don't want to say it's the directing or acting, but for some reason the two teen characters just don't talk like real teenagers, in my opinion. And worse off, they have these super long dramatic monologues that just feel very, very out of place. They don't feel realistic. They feel very over the top. I mean, there's a cheesy ass scene where the two characters are sitting back to back against a closed door, like talking about these deep things. I'm like, people don't do that shit. They would just talk to each other like normal people. And it was distracting. And unfortunately, because the movie is very dry, very slow, just character study, there isn't a lot to distract you from those things. You really just have to sit there with it. And every moment of Hong Chow, every moment with Brendan Fraser was awesome. But I think what's going on here is, I think the source material isn't all that strong. The subject matter and the themes are strong, but the actual script itself, I think on paper, if you were to read it just on your own, wouldn't be all that great. It's good, it's serviceable, but not great. And you can tell Brendan Fraser is really, I mean, just boosting this thing up by a lot. Almost, I feel the same way about Joker, actually. Joker borrowed a shitload from Taxi Driver, to put it lightly, and the actual, script itself was kind of but the filmmaking, the score, and that performance by Joaquin Phoenix tricks you into thinking it's better than it actually is. They elevate it. I think the same thing with this. The Whale, the original play, I've not seen, but just basing it off this adaptation, it's fine. It's serviceable. It has great themes and it has some great character moments, but there was a lot to be desired for me in that aspect. So watching Brendan Fraser play this role was magical. Hong Chow, underrated as shit, and dare I say, I really think she probably should have won Best Supporting Actress. And I think Sadie Sink did the best what she could with that material. The other kid, whose name, let me look it up real quick, Ty Simpkins is his name. He did fine, but I don't know, man. This movie, I wanted to like this movie so much more than I did. I mean, don't get me wrong, I cried a lot. I saw it in theaters alone, and when the end credits started happening, it's just the sound of waves with like an eerie whale call, and I was like, oh, I'm miserable. Oh man, this is too much. I wasn't even upset with the way it ended, even though I won't lie, there's some goofy Super Saiyan shit that kind of happened at the end. This like weird, okay, I can't say anymore. I don't want to spoil it. But there was this one creative choice they made with Charlie that I just visually thought was goofy as shit. Anyways, this is a movie you watch for the performances. You watch because the performances are so damn good. And I just feel like, with the 2-hour runtime, less time should have been spent on those snotty-nosed, annoying-ass kids. And more time, I think, should have been spent exploring Charlie and his background. His backstory is tragic. It's very sad. And you do get to learn a lot about him, and his motivation to connect with his daughter is very moving. But I think that this movie adapted the play maybe too faithfully. It should have embrace the things you can do cinematically that maybe you couldn't on stage. It should have played around a little bit more and been a little bit more creative, and I think less dry. Especially, again, if it was going to be this long, I think you could have said more and packed it more densely. I guess just gotten more out of that runtime than what they did. But maybe that's just me. Maybe I'm being too harsh, but great performances, loved it, but much like a lot of the other Darren Aronofsky films, I can't really see myself watching this more than once. It's too sad for me. Maybe unless I'm in the mood. Brendan Fraser deserved Best Actor without a doubt. So with all that said, I think I'm going to give this... I think realistically, this would be more of a 6.5, but the performances are so damn good that it's going to bump it up by a whole point. So I'm going to give it a 7.5. Maybe too high, but I don't care. I'm doing it for Brendan. I'm doing it for Hong Chow. And speaking of whales, it's time to talk about James Cameron's plan to take over the world with Avatar. All right, so I'm just like everyone else. I love my blockbusters. I love James Cameron. Aliens is in my 10 favorite movies ever made. Terminator 2, classic. The Abyss, Titanic. I mean, come on. Everything he's made is gold. And, Avatar, when it came out, I was a little, contrarian. I was in middle school at the time. I was like,
District 9 is one of the best things ever made. Avatar sucks.
I still think District 9 is one of the greatest action sci-fi movies ever made. But Avatar, the first one, it didn't suck. Yeah, I guess you could say it's mid. As overused as that word is, it pushed the boundaries of technology, perhaps in the wrong direction, but you got to give it credit where credit's due. James Cameron, he really, pioneered so much new tech, and that's going to be used to make so many more awesome movies. The Avatar world, while yes, is pretty cut and dry. For a one-time watch for a theater experience, I think that first movie was pretty cool. I'd probably give it, I'd give it a 7. So with this new one, I wasn't excited for it. I didn't really give a shit, but I was like, I gotta see it. I gotta see it in theaters. I gotta see it in 3D. I really wish I didn't see it in 3D, but I was like, let's just rip this Band-Aid off. Let's go see it. I went in with no expectations. I was like, it's gonna be cool, and I was pleasantly surprised. It was better than I expected, and I think the reason why is because this movie had a little bit more going on. That first movie, when you think about it, is about a guy going to a place. You had that Fern Gully, Princess Mononoke, the Dances with Wolves story of the dude changing onto the different sides to fight, the humans, etc. It was more about him discovering the world. It was a little bit more straightforward. But now that you have the character that is older, he has children, you have different factions, you have the Earth government, you've got the different tribes, characters double crossing, trading, etc. You had a little bit more going on, and I think that kept my attention longer, and it felt a little bit more exciting, and it had that sense of adventure, and I was able to latch onto the characters more. The kids sometimes were annoying. Sometimes I was intentional, sometimes it wasn't, but they didn't ruin the movie. And I think I've seen a lot of people complain about the kid characters, but honestly, I thought it was okay. I did think it was kind of lame that they had this Navi language, and then they did that fake out, cheap thing where they're like, oh, well, to me it sounds like English, and so they just have them speak English the whole time. That was a little annoying. I know, no one wants to read 3D subtitles, but I thought it would have been kind of neat if they at least committed to the alien nature of it. Seeing Sigourney Weaver as a little CGI alien lady was pretty crazy. Won't lie, there was a lot of questions they kind of left unanswered here. There's some characters they brought back. I'm gonna avoid spoilers, I guess, but some characters they brought back, and at first I thought, oh, this is kind of cheap, this is kind of lame. But now saying that this series is gonna go on for like 20 billion movies, and they're gonna have like these characters have arcs, I'm like, all right, I can follow this James Cameron anime. Why not? I also appreciated that this film was actually pretty violent. It was pretty gnarly. There were some arms getting amputated. There was people getting shot left and right. It wasn't afraid to get dark, and I guess I should expect that from James Cameron, but I guess I'm getting kind of annoyed how many of these MCU movies and some of these blockbusters seem to really just tone down the violence, and I don't need things to be like a disgusting bloodbath to be entertaining. I mean, it doesn't make it better per se, but I do appreciate when movies aren't afraid to get just a little rough and dirty. It just kind of makes the consequences and the stakes just feel a little bit more intense. I'm really skimming through this just because, I mean, it's Avatar. What else can you say? I think it was worth seeing at least once in a theater. Will I watch this again? No, I won't. I just don't give a shit. I mean, they're gonna do, if the first one was air, this one's water. They're gonna do an earth and fire. Literally the next movie is gonna just be lava avatars. They're probably gonna be red, red-skinned avatars. And then they said they're gonna do another movie that takes place on Earth. So literally, it's gonna be fucking air, earth, fire, wind. Like, this is just straight up James Cameron's Airbender Avatar shit, okay? I mean, they got Zoe Saldana weeping and sobbing her eyes out again, just like they did in the first one. I mean, that lady knows how to cry. But overall, I had fun with it. I wish I wasn't wearing these shitty-ass, gross fucking fish goggles the whole time, but it's all good because I never have to watch it ever again. So I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna give Avatar the classic 7. It's a 7. You know what? Yeah, no, it's a 7. It's a 7. By the way, it's like really late. It's like 4 in the morning. I apologize. Like I said, I knew this video was gonna be rough as shit, but hey, you gotta end it with the bang. And I guess the way I'm gonna end it is by mentioning the one other movie I forgot, and that's fucking Blonde. Movie is a 1 out of 10. Yeah, I know that's the popular opinion, but even though I'm the biggest Ana de Armas simp in the world, oh my god. If you're not gonna make a biopic, but you're gonna make a movie based on a person, don't make it a gross, horrible trauma porn film. I have no problem with films that touch on sexual assault. It just had nothing to say of value. It literally was weird, creepy fan fiction about a real life person who did have a lot of tragedy in her life. But you can't make a long ass movie about a real person and not show the light of their life. Like just why make a movie about a real life person if you're just gonna make a bunch of shit up? It just, that's what baffles me about it. I think that the controversy around this movie is very well deserved. And you know what? Let's remove all that controversy out. Let's take all that out. Even on a filmmaking perspective, it's weird. The stylistic choice, it didn't feel coherent. Like they really just kind of just threw shit up on the screen. There's a really weird waterfall sex scene that just, I was like, what's happening? Ana de Armas, unfortunately, her accent really just was all over the place too, and that was super distracting. I fucking hated this movie. I'm not even gonna lie to y'all, I did not finish it. I know you're not supposed to review movies without finishing them, but fuck it. This movie is doo-doo dog shit. Certified doo-doo dog shit. That's my rating. 1 out of 10. Don't watch it. Well, I think that's gonna do it for my 2022 wrap-up. I am horribly exhausted. It is way past my bedtime, and I gotta go to work soon. But, you know, I'm glad I got to say what I needed to say, get it off my chest, and I got a lot of exciting stuff lined up. Resident Evil 4 is literally just around the corner. There's tons of awesome movies coming out this year. Oppenheimer is gonna blow my socks off. I'm exhausted. I'm dying. I hope that I wasn't too all over the place. I am off my meds. My ADHD is off the charts. I am thinking about everything everywhere all at once, both the film and just in general. But thank you for watching and tolerating my shit takes and watching me decompose on camera. So until next time, thanks for watching.
Mom, I just won an Oscar!